accounts. If you go to the accounts, I think this is peg, okay, after peg 12 is peg 13. The one which talks about statement of appropriation based on classification. If you look at what you call pension arrears paid, that is about, I don't know this, if you count from down 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line. It says the budget was 55.3, 55. No, 55. 55.3. Then it was not revised, but they spent the actual performance is 55.349. Now I want us to relate that with again the 57. I want us to relate with that with the 57. No, it's billion also. Yeah, and we relate that with also when you go to because we're reconciling pension on page 10 of the accounts in the statement of equity, changes in equity, so that you can switch off internet well. You see down there, if you look down the balance sheet adjustment, UPTC pension, it's talking about 45 billion. Table, you see down there. So I want us to relate the three. So before you move there, relate this to the one in the balance sheet and even the balance sheet and appropriation, and this one we are talking about the implementation of activities. How are these figures moving? So that I can also understand, so that I know 57.068, it is pension for UPTC. In the balance sheet, statement of equity is talking of 50 billion. In the statement of appropriation, is talking of actual paid is 55 billion.
Through my accounting officer, is separate from the non-wage because arrears are released separately. So when I'm to relate to what Honorable is talking about, the 45 in statement of changes in equity was the figure which was added on later. So when you go to the statement of financial position, it's an addition on the previous year. Because these are areas which were verified later in the year and we had to now bring them on board. They were for previous year, but were brought in, so we had to bring them through reserves.
This is a prior adjustment.
Yes.
So you recognize another 45.
Yes.
So this is not part of the 55.
No.
Fine. Okay. Now we go.
Maybe we need to understand when did you recognize that 45? Was it before the budget or after the budget?
Chair, with areas, we keep getting a report from Auditor General because we received the first report of the 350 billion which has been running in the accounts in the previous years. However, this one they had not completed the verification, but they were incurred, of course, in the previous years, which makes them part of the reserves. So upon completion of the report, it's when we bring them on board with the supporting document, because the report from Auditor General, which shows the actual figures to be paid, is what we base on to capture the arrears.
You're just rounding. The question was, did you receive the verified report from the Auditor General before or after the budget? But it's like you're saying it was after the budget. Because if it was before the budget, I would have asked you to have included it in your appropriation account.
Honorable Chair and members, the arrears for these pensioners were actually, I think the arrears were determined prior at a certain figure. I think it was 320 billion, which we have been paying partially for the subsequent years. I think it's 4 years now that we are paying these arrears. However, in the process, Office of Auditor General recomputed or sometimes recomputes the calculation of these arrears and then sends us an updated report. So when that happens, that is where we capture the discrepancies that you're seeing. So it can come after the budget. Yes.
Madam Chair, I want the accounting offices which were submitted to the Auditor General for purposes of auditing, for verification. I want you to show me where your statement of liabilities, which is saying these are the liabilities with a probability of crystallizing. You know, I hope you are getting what I'm saying. I want you to show us the statement, which is clearly showing this is the probability of crystallizing, and this is what we submitted, and the Auditor General's report, which clearly comes up to confirm these liabilities, because this is not mean money.
If I can respond to him, to the Honorable, these were not captured as contingent liabilities because these pensioners were formerly under a different institution and not directly under the ministry. It was after the court case and after Auditor General had computed that they now said the money is going to come through the Ministry of ICT. So we could not capture them as contingent liabilities because we were originally were not part of the case.
So they came from which ministry?
From the defunct institutions of UPTC, UTL, and Posta.
Maybe I could assist you. You go to page 42 of your accounts. Then I can ask the question I want. Are we feeling 40? Are you there? You are saying adjustments to previous year commitments. I'm sure it is the one. It may not be totally the one. That's why I'm suspicious. Then I can ask. Are you seeing it? It is the same value. So you're saying adjustment to your previous year. Where is it showing it's a transfer? You're just making an adjustment. You're not making a note how the adjustment came in. You're just putting a figure of 45 billion. So how did you get this? Because it should be showing is a transfer, so that when it is a transfer from Ministry of X, there will be a negative there, there will be a positive here. I hope you're getting what I'm saying.
Chair, maybe
Pull the microphone closer.
in terms of the transfer, what I meant was the original 320, the original case of this whole pension is what I was looking at. Because the management of the case is with the Auditor General in terms of computation, in terms of knowing whether there will be changes in this. So originally the 320 which we began with, because as you can see, we started paying from the figure which they transferred to us from those institutions at the time of 320, which we thought was the final figure computed. Now, on the way, as you can see during that year, they recomputed some more funds of up to 45 billion, which is what they brought to our attention and we are now capturing. So in terms of capturing it as contingent liability, there's no would be aware of the contingency because we assumed the case had been cleared and the computations had been fully transferred to us. Thank you, Chair.
Changing your statement. You say that the 45 you never recognized it because it was transferred from another entity. Didn't you say like that?
I'm saying the whole case of these.
Okay, now assuming the whole case came. So now this you are doing an adjustment to previous years. where is it a statement showing this is an adjustment, and how does it arise? Where is it here? So that if I'm looking at your account, I don't need to ask you. I read the statement, show me.
Chair, when you look at page 8 on the commentary on the financial statements by the head of accounts,
Honorable members, as we do proceed, the PS here has an urgent call. A matter of national security. Hope we are not switching off the internet again, madam. As soon as you get the directive, kindly inform us in time so that we can prepare. Why are you carrying all your...
what was referring to an explanation on the 45, and I'm referring members to page 8 of the accounts, which is the commentary on financial statements by the head of accounts, the second last paragraph, where I showed that during the special audit of pension, recommendations were made reviewing the benefits of some pensioners, and hence a new figure was brought on board.
So
I think, Chair, the accountant, what my colleague is asking is just simply to bring to his attention, how did you bring these transactions in your books? How did you recognize them? As simple as that. You don't need to go very far. You're an accountant, you would say, when we receive this verified information, this is what we did to bring them in our books.
touch.
Thank you, Chair. As you can see, the entries were made, the attachment can be available because it's a voluminous thing which cannot be attached here. The auditors can attest to this.
Which entries did you pass?
Yeah,
We increased the liability and passed the expense through the reserves. That's why it's coming as an adjustment to the reserves.
When you say which entries, you're an accountant, you know what I mean.
We debited reserves and credited the pension liabilities.
Simple as that. So now we shall ask the auditor will give us just the summary of the audit. Now, yeah.
Yes, Honorable
You
Nandala.
remember when we brought this, you had asked him to cross over to go and
Yes,
reconcile.
go on.
Let him go and reconcile because we're also eager to understand that reconciliation.
Please do, accountant. Honorable colleagues, we go to 3.15, assessment of...
Simple. The auditor indicates that 57.068 were for outputs that were fully implemented, and then partially implemented was 0.785. When you add the two, you get 57.853. But the also auditor indicates up there that the current non-wage, which is indicated amount spent, is 59.016. Therefore, the difference between 57.853 and 59.016 is 1.167. So one wonders, where is the accountability of that money? Because the auditor has given us what is fully implemented, what is partially implemented. Possibly this money spent and is not seen, maybe it's what is not implemented at all. That was my question.
Thank you, Chair. This is query 3.14. When you look at the difference you're looking at of 1.1, you can go to table 8, showing status of absorption. On page 15, if you have the main queries.
What?
Table 8 in the main queries, if you have the main report from Auditor General, which gives the preamble.
Showing status of absorption.
Yes. They are showing recurrent wage was 10.419, where we spent only 9.5, which gives 91%. And for non-wage, it's 59.17 and spent 59.16, which gives the difference they are looking at of...
Not that. We are looking at 59.016, which is amount received and spent, according to this table.
Yes.
But the auditor goes down to say that out of this 59.016 you received, only 57.068 is outputs fully implemented. 0.785 is outputs partially implemented. When you add the two, you get 57.853. Now, the difference between 57.853 and 59.016, which you received and indicate spent, is what we are looking for.
Response?
Chair, I need to get guidance from the Office of the Auditor General on the breakdown down, because when we look at the upper one, we would expect them to also show where they maybe have seen a non-partial, because according to us, all these either were partially or fully implemented.
What Honorable Chair was raising, even if you go down the table, is clearly showing, you got 59.17, but if you see the total as you go ahead, even the analysis, it is talking of 57.8 up to peg 13. So it is clearly showing there's already a difference of about about almost 2 billion. So the Auditor General was mad that he never saw the other one, or what?
Chair previously said that we don't pay attention to some of these details, because even during the response that you gave, the person in finance ought to have seen that there is a mismatch in figures. You ought to have seen it. So accounts, the person in charge of accounts should go this side. Yes?
And it goes,
Performance of the entity's core mandate and functions, and the following we are noted. We are leaving these ones that were implemented, but we go to item 4 that was partially implemented. Developing terms of reference, design and rollout of ICT infrastructure, spatial data store, and undertake capacity building. On assessment, there was completeness. You completed needs assessment for establishing the spatial data store. However, a fully-fledged store was not implemented. So speak to that and the implication.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The terms of reference were developed, and the procurement for the design and development of the spatial data store is ongoing under the UDAP GovNet project. And I will request Commissioner Goy to give us more details about this spatial data store.
And as you do submit, explain to the country the importance of this.
Geoffrey Agoy is my name again, Commissioner for ICT Infrastructure Development in the Ministry of ICT. Chair, as far as the spatial data store is concerned, this particular intervention came as a result of when we as in the ministry, we saw the uncoordinated approach in as far as the rollout of infrastructure is concerned, the ICT infrastructure. These days you see quite a number of poles which have raised a lot of questions along roads. You see multiple diggings, and also you see multiple masts almost everywhere. Now, in an effort to empower the ministry to guide the rollout in a coordinated manner, we decided to come up with what we're calling the spatial data store. This is basically a database which has spatial infrastructure for existing ICT infrastructures. It's also envisaged to have the spatial data for road networks, for electricity, the utilities in that respect. So in that respect, we did incorporate the actual development of the system, the spatial data store, under the World Bank funded project, that is the UDAP, which is under NITA-U. The other preliminary activities to do with the terms of reference and others which could be afforded under GOU, basically the budget. That is what our main focus under GOU was. Now, unfortunately, we did finish all what we wanted to get done under GOU, the preliminary activities to have this system up and running. But under the World Bank, where the system was supposed to be developed, the procurement process took a little bit lengthy, and up to date, we are still in that process of developing that particular system to have it in place. It requires about $1.1 million to have it in place. In that respect, thank you.
Communicate that in Uganda shillings.
1.1 basically translates to about 4 billion Uganda shilling, just roughly.
PS, considering the criticality of the matter that we are speaking about, we need to get details of this procurement activity. How far have you gone? What was the contract value? And why didn't you said you didn't fully implement because of insufficient funding? We need to know insufficient funding in terms of release. You said GOU funding wasn't enough. We need to get some of those details. Reason, you all note the impact of the uncoordinated approach that we have in line to the structures of, you know, the structure for internet and these others. So this uncoordinated approach, I doubt whether this is an activity where you can fail to get money when it comes to prioritization. We've seen entities having supplementary budgets on even areas that are not as critical as they may seem. So we need to know, you to update us on how far you've gone. He said the procurement process was lengthy. Then now he has not told us where he has reached. Update on where are you for now. Is the procurement process done? If complete, if works are, if the activity is in progress, to what extent in terms of percentage in physical versus financial performance?
Actually, Chair, he said that the part by GOU was done. It's only the counterpart funding, the funding that delayed the procurement. Is that correct? Now, but I was also wondering, the main funding. But I was also asking, if the main funding is late and do you still have the money that was made for the GOU funding? So because I'm trying to look at the situation, you want to do this, you contribute this, and this will contribute